Ho 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 ho! Well, hello there. IMO Reviews here, everybody. Back from a little small hiatus I was taking. If you don't know, I actually rap under the name Youth the Messiah. I am a rapper, poet, man of sorts, and I was working on this album titled Mosaic recently. So I kind of took a break to focus on finishing the last few tracks for that. But I have recorded the last of the vocals I need for that right now. It's just a matter of waiting for some instrumentals, some features, as well as mixing and mastering a bunch of the tracks. But it's really good compared to a lot of the old work that I've done. The quality and lyrical content and production work is a lot of an improvement from what I've done in the past. If you haven't heard my music or you haven't heard any of the new tracks out, I did drop one recently called Fucking 9 to 5. It's kind of about what it sounds like. Yeah, I don't think there's really much explanation for something like that. It does have a reggae kind of feel to it. I was doing it with a band at my school called Island Tonic. I worked with the lead singer Kendall Joseph on this track, had him sing a couple lines for that, an intro and outro as well as a middle part. But yeah, it's pretty good. Definitely check it out. I would appreciate that a lot. And the album's called Mosaic. It's going to be out probably in like the fall, I would say. Anyway, though, I'm so happy to be back here doing reviews. I missed it a lot. There's a lot of albums I wanted to talk about that I didn't get the chance because I was so focused on the album. Rather than go back, which is what I originally thought to do, I think it's better we just move forward and review newer music coming out so that it stays, relevant in what's going on in the media and the music world today. One album that came out pretty recently this month was called Slightly Stoopid's Everyday Life, Everyday People. The band has been around since 1994 and kind of has a sound that combines styles of punk rock, reggae, blues, even folk in some songs. They've been putting out music since like the 90s and early 2000s and actually even started their own label called Stoopid Records, which signs a few artists such as the Expendables that are pretty popular right now in like the reggae rock scene. They've dropped some of what I think is the most significant music in this kind of reggae, punk rock, folk combination scene, such as Kali Man, Sweet Honey, Wise Man, which is one of my favorites, as well as Closer to the Sun, and this joint. That whole album had tons of bangers. I believe it was from Closer to the Sun, the album itself. They haven't dropped anything since Meanwhile Back at the Lab in 2015, but now they're here with this new record, Everyday Life, Everyday People. And at the start of this album, I thought I was really in for something special because Glocks is a fantastic track. Starts out with like this acoustic guitar strumming mixed in with these like kind of groovy 80s style synths, but then it grows into something bigger with heavier drums, a loud horn section, kind of something out of like Real Big Fish's book, but they incorporated it very well in their style of music. I thought the way the instrumental build up was like perfect for an intro, so I was pretty excited for this album overall. However, the following track compared to Glocks, which is the intro I was talking about, seems kind of like mediocre by comparison. That is called Stay the Same, Prayer for You. It's just that features like Don Carlos, he doesn't really add much to it. I don't really see why he's a feature. He's on another track later on called Talk Too Much, which he doesn't really add much to that one either. And with this second track, Stay the Same, I started to notice a problem that I saw throughout many tracks on the album, that it's kind of mixed weird compared to their older music. Like, you can hear that the vocals really should be louder, and they kind of take a step back from the instrumentals a bit, which for a band that's been making albums for over a decade now, I would think that they would have that kind of under control. Like, they have the money for the production of that. They have their own record label, for God's sake. Yeah, that's one of the things that kind of makes this album seem a bit underwhelming, a bit mediocre to me, as well as the fact that some of the instrumentals sound very similar to other songs on this album, which, like I said before, this is a band that typically incorporates a lot of different elements to their music, like folk and blues and reggae and punk rock, yet all these kind of sound like your typical acoustic reggae jams that you would hear on like a Revolution album or like a Dirty Heads acoustic EP, but not with as much enthusiasm in the vocals and delivery as Dirty Heads, and having vocals not mixed as well, which kind of adds to an underwhelming album, to be honest. However, this album does have some highlights, I will give it that. I did enjoy the track Higher Now. There's a feature from, I think his name is Chalin Tune. Never really heard of him before, but I mean, he has this like rap bridge in the song that kind of sounds like something Shaggy would do in the '90s on like It Wasn't Me or some kind of track like that. And it goes really well with the vibe of the track. They also managed to deliver some of like the more powerful vocals on this song, Higher Now. Like the way they actually sing the words higher now just has a beautiful melody to it. The instrumental feels a bit more like psychedelic and kind of experimental how the intro Glocks was, which is something I really wish they did more throughout this album. There's some tracks on here too where the lyrical topics are like pretty inspiring actually for a reggae group. I mean, there's this song "No One Stops Us Now" / "Nobody Knows," which kind of feels like a lift me up kind of anthem where essentially they're singing to people who are down and saying like no one's gonna stop us now. The way they sing this melody is very beautiful as well, and it's one of the tracks that the vocals are actually mixed better as opposed to like "Stay the Same" or "Fire Below" or "Too Late." I also like the track "Everyday People" for its like melancholy but also kind of dark and depressing sound. There's like this lazy, depressing cynicism within his vocal styling that I think adds to what the track is trying to say as well as what the album is trying to say about everyday life and everyday people. I also like the track following that, which was called "One More Night," and it's a very good acoustic track that has like these violins which within the chorus that adds this like uplifting feel to it. It adds to the emotion of the track overall. It's kind of sad the fact that he's singing "One More Night" and then I'm gone, but there's also like this very kind of like happiness to it, I guess. It's almost like a very like bittersweet track, which is similar to the one right before it, "Everyday People," that had that like bittersweet vibe to it, which I think Slightly Stupid does really well. And I kind of wish they did a little bit more on this album because that's something I really haven't seen from them as much. But despite having tracks that were lyrical highlights like the ones that I mentioned before, it just doesn't seem to have the same impact as something like Wise Man or Sweet Honey has back in the day. I feel like there's just less emotion in their music as far as like the delivery of it, as far as the lyrics goes, although it does have some highlights. I just kind of wish they did more for this project as far as the production goes, the way the vocals are mixed, as well as the amount of motion put into this song. Even though "One More Night" is one of my favorite songs, I feel like it could have just a little bit more emotion, even though it was one of the better lyrical tracks for this project. Yeah, I just wasn't feeling this compared to Slightly Stupid's earlier work. I think they're playing to like below what they're capable of, and they need to realize again like how fucking great they actually are, and the kind of music that they are able to create when they work together as a unit. I'm just not really seeing that on this project as much compared to their old music. Overall, I would give Slightly Stupid's Everyday Life, Everyday People a rating of 2.5 out of 5 men's or mans or whatever the fuck you want to say. Shout out to Charlie Sheen. I liked you in that little pump video. You making moves, man. I see you. The little pump. Good shit, man. Good shit. Anyway, well, that's it for this video. Psych, you would have thought! Welcome to the review. Daily Double. It's your lucky day, ladies and gentlemen. We got a second review for you. Because recently, on July 20th, we saw the drop of Hive Mind by The Internet. The Internet is an LA group that used to be part of like the Odd Future Collective. They have this like alternative R&B funk sound within the band. You may have seen solo projects from artists such as Sid or Steve Lacy who are part of The Internet. Steve Lacy also, I believe, produced on Kendrick Lamar's Damn, as well as dropped a solo project, as I said before. So although the band has dropped a lot of solo work recently, like their individual projects that are just the individual members and not the Internet as a collective unit, they haven't put anything out since like 2016 when they dropped Ego Death. That was a pretty good album, nominated for a Grammy, had some great features like Vic Mensa was on there, Janelle Monáe, as well as Tyler the Creator and K-Tronda. And what was great about this album is that we finally saw like some instrumental cohesiveness from the band, which with their early projects was kind of like a big issue. I mean, yikes! Like some of that production was, I don't even know how to describe it. Just garbage. It was just garbage. Well, I heard the single "Roll," Burbank Funk, which is on this album, And in this one, instead of Sid singing, it's Steve Lacy. I never noticed this before, but hearing Steve Lacy sing on these instrumentals, he sounds so much more like enthusiastic and confident in his voice than Sid. To the point now where when I look back at Ego Death, I think like some of these vocals can be more interesting than what Sid is able to put out. Even on her solo work, I thought the vocals were really interesting, but maybe just like not for the type of internet production that this band is doing. I was happy when I heard Burbank Funk. I was also happy when I heard Come Together, which is the intro track on this album. It instantly reminded me of Come Together by the Beatles, so this has a very different sound to it. Funky guitar rhythm, hear Steve and Sid harmonizing. It sounds very beautiful throughout the track. The lyrics are fantastic. I thought I was in for something really special. I was like, this is it. This is the album where the internet does it. They put out an amazing album to like their full potential and they can do it and all that. And as I kept listening, I kept getting more excited for this album because, like I said, the next track after Come Together is Roll Burbank Funk, and Steve Lacy has like amazing vocals on this. Such a funky banger tune. Come Over is kind of like a soft, sexy melody, but Sid does pretty good with this one. I think it's a bit more interesting than a lot of her vocals on Ego Death. Then we have a track called La Di Da, which kind of has like this hip hop inspired beat to it, which makes sense because the actual like saying of La Di Da in songs was used by artists like Slick Rick, 3 6 Mafia. Recently, Future has used it again. I know ASAP Ferg also sampled it, like the 3 6 Mafia styling in some other song. It's just become a big like staple phrase in hip hop, and they did it justice on this tune. It's very catchy. It's very upbeat. I was super excited for this album so far within these first 4 tracks. However, following that, the album kind of takes a bit of a dip. Stay Tonight is a track where I feel like they're going for the sexy sound of Come Over, but Sid's vocals just don't sound as enthusiastic here. They sound a little bit flat at some points. I just feel like she doesn't bring that same like sexy energy that she did for Come Over, you know. The instrumentals is very much there with the acoustic strumming and the slight bongo drums, but I'm just not feeling the sexy vibes as much as I think I should be feeling with this song. Bravo was another track where like I was really surprised at how low the production quality dipped because again, Sid is singing with like this very uninteresting delivery and something weird is with like the drum pattern of the song. Not that it's offbeat, it just doesn't really fit with like the vibe of it. I just it sounds very out of place. You know what I mean? Not rhythmically per se, but maybe just like the styling of it. I just felt like that ruined a lot of the song for me. The song Mood is yet another song where it should be as sexy as Come Over, but Sid's just really not delivering with her style of singing so much. Especially because the beat for Mood sounds more like the instrumental for Burbank Funk, where I feel like this one should have been more of a banger. This one should have had more enthusiasm. I think for a lot of these songs, honestly, it would have been better with Steve Lacy singing on it. That's not to say Sid is a bad singer necessarily, but I don't think that her styling really works so well for the internet. I think that she was better as a solo artist on, I believe the album was called Finn. It just seemed like on that, like, she had instrumentals that complemented her voice more, where on this project, that's not so much there. I was at the point, like, once I got to Next Time / Humble Pie, which is the 8 track, I was like, that's it. This album's boring. It's just the first 4 tracks, and then it's just crap after that. It's just boring. It's stupid. But it gets better with time comes around. And Sid is reaching her falsetto. She's singing at a higher pitch, and it sounds so much more beautiful, so much more enthusiastic. The lyrics are great. It's kind of like I said with the Slightly Stoopid review of the song Everyday People, this one's almost speaking out to people who I think are kind of miserable or not confident, and she's saying that it gets better with time, which is the name of the track. There's also this like poem within the middle of it that speaks on that same topic that I think was really well. It's not exactly a rap, like it's not on beat, it's more of like a spoken word piece just kind of in the middle of it, but it adds a lot to it. Interesting too to see that there's been so many kind of bland songs that are trying to be sexy, and now they're switching up the vocal delivery, the range she's singing at, the lyrical topics of the tracks. Like, this was a very refreshing point in the album for me to kind of get reinvested into it. However, the songs after It Gets Better With Time all feel kind of filler in a way, where like it's not really anything new introduced to what we've heard before, instrumentally or lyrically. Aside from the track, the beat goes on, which I found very interesting. I think that there's like these nice looped drums with this funky bass. Repetition of the phrase "the beat goes on," I guess, is kind of a signal of the beat is literally going on. So I thought that was kind of creative to do. There's a second meaning to that title when you look at the lyrics within the verses, because he's kind of talking about this girl that I guess doesn't want to be with him in the same relationship status that Steve Lacy has on this track. And he say it's all right because the beat goes on, it all goes on, which I thought was kind of like an interesting vibe for the end of this album, especially because there's so many like sexy, moody tracks before it. This one feels like it's a different perspective, which I liked. And again, I think Steve Lacy just complements the instrumentals of the internet more than Sid's vocals in a lot of cases. I think if Sid maybe sang the way she does with It Gets Better with Time more on the internet songs, it would be a lot better, because I think that like high range that she has adds more personality to her voice, which will make the songs just overall more interesting. Because Too Many in the Middle just seems so, well, in the middle, where it's just kind of like mediocre tracks, like, alright, this is some like mildly sexy song, but it's not really exciting in any way like a sexy song should be, in my opinion. It's not even really particularly relaxing like some smooth R&B tracks are about love. It's just kind of there. Like there's just not really much to the song. It's a little bit like numb and bland, you know. But overall, I think this album is an improvement from Ego Death. I think that the internet does have a promising future. I think they do have the potential to make a perfect album from front to back. This one just wasn't exactly it. There's just too many tracks that are filler, too many tracks that are just uninteresting compared to like some of like those first four bangers that they introduced. But I'm excited to see what the internet does for the future. Now, I give this album from the internet, Hive Mind, I will give it 3 out of 5 Doritos, Locos, Tacos from Taco Bell. No, the Coke in the picture. Now that is not an extra point. It's still a 3 out of 5. That's just there because I love you guys. I want you to have a refreshing drink when you buy into one of those delicious, salty, flavorful, spicy tacos you can get from Taco Bell. And they did not pay me to say that. I just really fucking love Taco Bell. Anyway, thank you guys for your patience. I know I haven't posted something in a while. I've been working very hard on this album, but I promise you, it's got bangers. It's going to be a fantastic album. I'm going to continue to make some even better album review videos. Check out fucking 9 to 5 in the description below with Kendall Joseph of Island Tonic, and I will see you next time.